He was like, all these influencers talk about Grindset. Ugh. As a word worker, it Grindset as like the mentality. Ugh, it's such a bad word. And this is like the white man's thing.
Well, here we are, living in Donald Trump's America, round 2.
It's you know, it's like, we already were, but there's an honesty to it that this is where people go through trauma and they laugh because, what? What? Again? But like, yeah, history repeats itself. Now we're just in the new age where it's like, oh, faster. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
And
like
everyone's been asking me what I think of, Elon Musk's Nazi salute and stuff. And like,
what? Wait.
One of the things I've been saying is like 30% of Americans supported the Nazis the first time around.
Well, remember
right?
when I think just what was this last week? I said our Pledge of Allegiance used to come with a Nazi salute. So like, it's evil pointing itself at each other. Like we at some point we gotta wake up. Hey, this is us, guys. This is us. We're we are the thing. And when I say we, I don't really mean we this time. I mean y'all. Because y'all, when I say y'all, I really do mean everyone but Black women, probably. I could say, because the more I look at stuff, even, that's funny that you said the Nazi thing, because I've been listening to some stuff about Amber Heard, because I've been toying with the idea of bringing back what I used to do of Whisper Wednesdays, which is I go live every Wednesday, but I do it on my Patreon, which is not the easiest, but I've been figuring it out because, we do what we got to do. But, Amber Heard, there's a lot that goes with it, but I think people don't realize how close they are to being Nazis until but if you laughed or you said like Amber Turd, if you were one of the people who thought that's funny and that's like an okay thing, you're in the wrong direction. You're with your hand is in the air, because the investment and disgust and energy into degrading someone because they aren't perfect, and then use, I don't know, it's disturbing. However, when I look at the research, I see videos, because a lot of it's I've done on YouTube. I see a video from 2 years ago from a Black woman that at that time was going, what is everybody doing? What is this? This is disgusting. There are memes. There are this. At the time, this Black woman was not swayed by groupthink and public, quote unquote, public opinion. But if you weren't looking for that, you don't know that. And I just think we have to look at it as everyday stuff and not call out, or if we're going to talk about Nazi stuff, it's like, Hitler was a guy, these people are guys, Nazis were people, you're people. When you read about this stuff, you need to be identifying with all of the people, not just the heroes. Because that's how you become it. And we watch it. So cycles and cycles, and Britney Spears and with this. Because I'd rather focus on that kind of stuff because I'm talking to white women, because women are doing this to each other. Yes, misogyny is going to misogyny, but you cannot do that. You can say, actually, I want to say something different. Instead of going, whoa, or I would never speak up if I saw that. You be one of the people. Because when Black women do it, it's somehow, people say, no one says anything. No one agreed. No one stuck up for her. That's not true. But cults are louder than communities. They're angrier. I don't know. There's like this anger, this vitriol, this disgust with internet strangers or just strangers in general living their whole lives not touched by you at all. What is that? Like,
the whole time I was just looking at it from the perspective of like the fact that people are watching two professional actors and they think they know, right? Like people really believed that they knew what was going on. And it speaks to this bigger, like, just gamification, I
right.
feel like, of our society that everyone participates in. I don't
Yeah.
know where I was going with that.
No, that they felt so sure of other people. Well, the studying of the drama of two people, and I just remember thinking, okay, but old man, young lady, she's saying he's doing things we've all heard he does before her. What? He's powerful man in media. She's not. We're laughing at her? Just those things but when you are in this scarcity fear-based, like this mindset of like someone's got to be in trouble, I gotta hate someone's got to be at the forefront of badness that isn't me. And it was millions of people, but at the same time it wasn't millions of Black women.
Yeah.
It's women.
No, definitely white women are the ones responsible for where we are right now. And that is,
And you can also be responsible for, it gives you something to realize you have power, though. Like you aren't, this isn't happening necessarily to, it's with your help. And when you don't say stuff, that's also part of it. Inaction is an action. To go, I don't want to get yelled at. Maybe get yelled at. I don't know. It's like, of all
yeah,
the things, I get
yeah,
yelled at a lot. Well, not as much now because
you can yell right back.
yeah, I stepped away also from the place where it's like, I'm not going to the public park anymore of TikTok.
Oh boy, they
Shame.
have found me. The bros have found me.
Oof.
But here's what I've learned. I've learned a secret trick to going viral all the time, which is just have purple hair. And it infuriates them. It infuriates them so much that they cannot. Because I don't know if you've heard this whole like the blue-haired liberal thing. Like that's their stereotype.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here and I'm knitting or crafting and I have purple hair and I'm talking about the military or like a serious topic. And they're like, they just can't keep themselves from coming in to tell me how silly I am. And I'm like, keep typing. Like, this is all money. Thanks.
So they're so, I don't want to say the word fragile, but fragile in like a bomb, but not like a doll. Like I say with white women, fragile like a bomb. But like with them, it's a little different. I don't get a lot of them because I don't think they, like I said about the white women versus a white man in a conference room. White men tend to just see me and go, ugh, too much work. God, that's a lot. I don't know. I'm nervous. They try. It doesn't really. They're not thinking, but they don't care about my gaze that
Yeah.
much. They care about your gaze so much, and when you go ew, or ew at the I should care. You go, oh, this isn't for you. They don't know what to do, and I've experienced it with men though. Because I'm a woman, and you say you reject them, and then all of a sudden you become this terrible, well, I wouldn't like you anyway, and you're ugly, and you're short, and like, I understand, but white men, I don't know.
Well, and it's so easy to thwart them. I learned this from you by just like not giving them like now because I post a lot of stuff about the military. So now they'll be like, "Oh, what rank were you?" And I just like, I mean, they're just like, "I don't answer to you," or I'm like, "Bro, you can Google me," but I don't like. They're not okay with me not like rushing to defend myself, and it's so fun and like
It,
funny to just watch them flailing.
when you have the privilege and use it like towards, away from that, what's expected, that proximity. When I push myself, I'm openly Black, right? If I'm loudly, honestly, unapologetically, let's say that I'm unapologetically Black and a biracial person, right? And I don't say I'm biracial first. I don't try to appease towards whiteness. I don't try to suck up as much value from my positionality as possible. I go, no, I'm Black. Like that's what I am. And by doing that, I see the betrayal sense sometimes that why people are like, yeah, but what do you hate that you're white? What? What? That seems silly. I don't understand that. But it's making that choice that you're making to say, I'm not gonna go. Not only are you not dyeing your hair blonde, you are making the active choice to be unapologetically individual.
Yeah, and like so this is what I used to have such a hard time describing about like white Americans' reaction toward me. You know, that it's always been this kind of like, well, wait, aren't you Brazilian? Like, no, I wasn't born there. I don't have nationality there. Like I grew up there. Oh, so aren't you like are you Jewish? They like they need me to be something other because otherwise the fact that I'm choosing to like
Mm,
foreign, right? It's
yeah,
this kind of message that was always being told to me like, Daniela, you can pass. Like you can pass as a straight white Christian American lady. So like why would you not want to?
right, right.
And it's that, you know, and I finally just started saying to people like, are you kidding me? WASP culture is the boringest of all the cultures that I know of. Like
I can't even, and that's what kind of goal is that? And that's why I kind of say like grieve your goals. We talked about a little bit. It's like grieve your group goals because they're not even having fun. They're not. This don't rock the boat. If you're in an unrockable boat, get off it. Please leave it because boats are supposed to rock. Um, but or don't like make a scene. It's this. You have the. I keep associating also like privilege. This is what it's like, privilege with pickability. Either like you can pick, you can pick, you have the choice to pick, or you can be picked. And if you are not doing one of those two things, it's like, but you're what do you mean? It's you're not taking advantage of your this thing that we're all supposed to be vying for. And if you have it, that's where you see your value is in your ability to choose either like I can pick what character I want to be. I have the choice to be someone who manipulates a man because I'm pretty. I can pretend to do this thing. I can perform this, or I can do what regular people think. I'm not sure with this privilege business, but it's picking of terrible choices. It's like, it's not really choices at that point. But you don't get to be a thing. You're so busy trying to get picked or pick or what about just, taking a nap, making something, undoing it, it's like this whole ride or die or no, no, nap. I want to bring those back into the options because after a nap, you realize I don't got to do any of that. I don't think those were fun actually. But this the choice to step away from it is hard to explain because it's like a not thing. It's hard to prove a negative. But the people getting angry, that'll show you. That'll show you what you're doing right, because they just don't know what to do. And the people who go, what does white woman whisper mean? Like, what do they think it means? Or how'd you come up with that name? No, I just say it chose me, because they don't care what I have to say. If you're asking me what it means, then you have other stuff you got to work on, and I'm just going to help you do that by having my own fun with it and talking to everybody else and saying, drink. They asked what it means, drink.
Well, and it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, I'm sure you get this with white women, but like I get this with men where they're just like, did I completely forget where I was going with this?
Like, what's your name mean, or asking you?
Where they ask you these questions, but they're just giving away, or they don't realize, like I was telling these men on my thing today, I was like, if a woman tells you that you're mansplaining, listen. Because of course you're not going to know that you're doing it. But I know, like these guys show up and they'll be like, oh, what rank were you? And I'm just like, nobody ever asks my husband, who was lower ranking than me, by the way, that question, right? Like he says he's military and they just accept it, so it's like, I don't know what how we do that to Black women, but I'm sure there's a version of just like showing up and kind of like showing your ass because you don't know that you're doing that.
Yeah. And the explanations, and I had a whole part in defensiveness, which is a tenet of white supremacy, where I said we need to be refraining from explaining just in general, right? Especially as white people, you need to stop, because it's like, that's why I was talking about like behavioral accents, where you can't necessarily tell you have an accent because you have been surrounded by people with the same accent. But I'm going to tell you, white people, strong accent. And it's a lot of just passive aggressiveness. And like, you think, I don't know, like certain questions or the way white women do the tone setting, or even can I ask you a question? Oh, get out. Because it's this, give me some coddling and reassurance that no one's going to get mad at me, because all I'm doing is asking, right? But anyway, it's fine. But once you hear it a lot, now it starts to get grating. This next person coming up may not realize that they have this accent, but this is a behavioral accent, and it's indicative of something far more dehumanizing. So when a man is explaining to you something that they have never even touched on, and so, but then you have a white woman coming up to say, no, I'm not, I'm even the no's, right? No, you don't understand. I do understand. That's why I'm, like the context isn't in the room with us when white people speak. Something about context is so inherent to the difference between group and community, because you think you can just bring it in when you feel like it. And white people are often, especially white women, will introduce themselves and their credentials to why they can speak right now. As a white woman, I already know you say it. The proof is in the speaking, one, but it's also, hard to explain sometimes, but it's like, you have to believe that it exists already. And when I tell you something, like, that's what has to be, it has to already come to, like, the context. I'm speaking to you. I could not speak to you and you wouldn't know, but I'm choosing, right? I'm choosing in this space. I'm choosing to make a page. I'm choosing this. So I already know you mean well. If you explain it to me one more time, though, I will never speak to you again. And you won't know why. You're just going to go, I know. And it's like you're the victim of it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, I mean, and that's like, you've said this to me before, but like if a Black person is explaining something to you, then like they still care. you know. And I mean, I've been seeing a lot of that even with regards to politics, of Black women being like, nope, we're done. Like, we said we were done, and now we're done, and y'all got this world that you wanted. Like, here you go.
Yeah, and that's why that's why it's worth finding people who are already discussing this, and it's never about find the nearest Black woman and anything. Right? There
Yeah.
are people who are volunteering to do this work, and I'm able to do it because I started later, because I was privileged enough to have a very diverse upbringing and not a lot of white women doing all that white woman stuff in my life, because my mom protected me from that. She used her white womanness to, one, inform people she was around about how she was, so if they knew, they just wouldn't end up around me if they were going to not know. She wasn't about that. Like, she'll argue anytime. but but she was white and she could. But I didn't know necessarily all this other stuff. But all that to say, yeah, Black people are. I'm reading books written by Black women who, like, and I always say, just think about what it must have taken for this Black women to get published. Bell Hooks, you know, even medical apartheid, what it must have taken to get that published. And so how much community knowledge went into that at that point. And it's centuries. Think about how long slavery lasted. And the whole time, Black people were humans. The whole time. So it's in the books if you want to read a book, you know. It's in the conversations, but you have to believe it first. You can't come in thinking I'm the first person who's going to explain to this. Like, the humility is not at the root. That's why I said hut of humility, and white women didn't like it that much. But like,
Yeah,
I made my own first.
I mean, I really think this emphasis on like Black people were there the whole time and Black people were human the whole time, right? So even when everyone else was treating y'all like you weren't human, you were human.
The whole time.
And like, you know, from serving in the military, which was segregated by gender, right? This is my little like peek into that, which was like, there were laws saying that we were incapable of doing things as women that we clearly knew we were capable of. But the entire dialogue just like assumed that it wasn't, right? And so then it's like, you look back, you know, like, I would never think that I could ask you a question that you've never heard from another white woman, you know, like, just like, because you've been a Black woman your whole life. You have been, like you said, you were protected from some of the worst ones, but like, even the well-meaning ones.
It's and to be online, yeah, and if you asked me something, we know each other. That is a different type of thing. But the things that you see kind of online, and we're in this space having this conversation, right? I have made myself open to it. And even still, I think it's good to have that boundary of like, okay, but not all questions are necessarily good questions. And I'm not saying that they're stupid questions, but it's like, time is limited. I have access to all this. Have the conversations with the person in the room who, you know, wants to have that.
It's something, because we all, not we all, but a lot of us have this pet peeve when you're like listening to a public talk, right? Or something. And then someone gets up and they start asking a question that is like so individual, instead of like, you know, you can ask your question, but make it relevant to the whole group. At least like I'm pretty good at that. But then like people will stand up and they'll just go on for 5 minutes giving you like all this detail and all this stuff. And it's just like, why? Like, why do you think you are this important in this group of this many people,
right,
that like you feel comfortable to like make it this personalized,
right? Like, you don't hear yourself, and that's that's what I would, that's like a white behavioral accent. Like, no one's ever told you sit your ass down. Y'all don't hear that, you know. And I realize that you don't, and there's that right to comfort that really blocks so much. And you know, they'd rather dishonest harmony versus honest conflict. And it's like, oh my gosh, now you got these little toddlers growing up and they're never pushed for anything, and then you give them leadership roles and tell them that this is the best, like the gaslighting. But also, at least there's the thing about knowing we were human in the whole time, right? And when you have people saying they believe you aren't, and at some point you go, okay, well, we're obviously they don't know stuff. But if you still believe in it, you still believe that all you got to do is prove it to them. And you're trying to, and I think that's where white women get stuck, is they go, well, yeah, they're wrong, but if we just get this mark, or we show them this, or if I get close to this one, and it's like, no, they're still gonna just use and take from you. It's not within their goals. And I heard the word today that I heard so many times. I was listening to this white guy talk about climbing Mount Everest. Oh my God, he's so young. And he said Grindset. He was like, all these influencers talk about Grindset. Ugh. As a word worker, it Grindset as like the mentality. Oh, it's such a bad word. And this is like the white man's thing. What is
I was literally told this when I was in entrepreneurship. I was told, Daniela, if you're not like working weekends and like sleeping 4 hours a day, like you're never going to build your thing, right? You got to grind, you got to hustle. And I just looked at them. I was like, I have a toddler. I'm not going to do that.
It's also incorrect.
Yeah, it is. It's also incorrect, but it was just like, I just remember like the shock of this man, of me being like, no, like if that's true, what you're saying is true, then I'm just going to take longer to build my thing. Like I'm going to choose my kid growing up and being there for them than like, and he just couldn't like understand that.
Yeah.
Anyway, I sold my book for much more money than that guy ever made with his company.
That's what I'm saying. So we got to set the confidence. There's like, we have comfort with confidence over competence. Like these people don't have to show anything for it, when they just have to be like, well, you'll never, no one reads this. You mean no one you know? Who do you know? Like the people we listen to, we have to ask ourselves why we're listening to them. But that's what the cult does, is take away your sense of intuition, or that you can discernment. Instead, they're so focused on like discipline and like dedication and sacrifice and grinding. What are you cosplaying slavery? Because that's what it feels like at this point. That's what I'm saying to myself. Because it's like, why are you working hard, climbing Mount Everest? Why?
Well, and it's the glorification of suffering, which I feel like is this very white Christian idea that like if it's hard, it's worth more, right? And this gets into the whole skinniness thing, right? And let me tell you, the other day when I just sat there and I was like, you can just eat dessert because you want to and it's enjoyable, and you don't have to feel like any guilt or weirdness. You don't have to explain it. You don't have a reason. But like, Rebecca, I'm 37 years old. Yeah. And I just now am realizing that like, you can do stuff just because it feels good. Like harder doesn't mean better.
Right.
Sometimes harder is just faster to break yourself.
Right. There is no inherent goodness to something. But when you start with the underlying lack of a self, right? Like you're not worthy of being unless you are doing. Like you're already set up for this. Well, something's got to be wrong in order for this to be good. It's like, you can just be, and that's okay. Lazy, or get a real job. Real. What do you mean? Because first it's get a job, then it's get a real job. And what does a real job mean? It means work for a person that I kind of respect and make sure it sucks for you sometimes. I don't know. It can't be something I don't
My husband is a lovely, wonderful human. He's also a white man. And even though I have bought him an airplane with my words, he would still be comfortable that I just had a quote real job at
Like,
any time. Like that there was just like a guarantee paycheck. And I'm like, he took 400 signed books to the post office for me today. Like, but in
also, it's not
his
like
mind,
any
I
paycheck,
still don't have a real job.
right? And even that's incorrect, right? Even our understanding of what a secure, safe job is. Spotify laid off like 87 or 30% of, I don't remember what the numbers were, but like, even in these top jobs, you could be working for Twitter, right? And then boom,
Yeah.
or you're working
Well,
for
even my husband worked
these are
for
great
the Army for
jobs.
20 years and was supposed to have a retirement and disability paychecks for the rest of his life. And now they're going after that, right? Like that could just
Well,
be undone also.
so it's like
That's
not even like based in reality. So that's when I remember realizing like, oh my God, our ideas of safety are just sold to us through this like certainty, comfort, and control. And like if you just get those things together, a stable job, a secure job, but that just means will go on forever, is predictable. But it's not. And even if it is predictable, the environment's not. So like what if money stops being something that works? Um Better to be able to, you know how to now turn your words into money. That's, you know how to create something. You don't know how to just answer to someone, but that's what security is being able to say, well, someone else got it. That's
and and that's what we're being taught, you know, and I like you say this about like human being and human doing. Um and I like I've never been able to completely explain it to people, but like this is what I love about naked places. Like nobody walks up to you and says, "What do you do?" or like tells you that they're a lawyer. Like you just have human being conversations. And it like to me it makes it so clear that like our clothes are armor, our clothes are messaging, right? Like who
mm,
we are, what our status is. And we live in such a transactional world and country actually and culture that it's like the first thing you lead with is what do you do? And that's what makes, I think, people so uncomfortable. And I get this all the time. They're like, what's your real job? And I'm like,
oh,
do y'all
what
not see me working 12 hours a day, making all kinds of money doing this stuff?
it's like, no, what do you believe? Like, what do you care about? That is, but also get out of my face. Like, don't talk to me. Maybe that's why I'm not so social. Like, because some man was like, oh, and what do you do? No, thank you. And I just said, no, thank you, because I don't know what else to say, because I don't want to talk to this person. I did not consent to this type of conversation. And also, and that's white behavior, I think. Asking what you do is a little bit white because you don't exist in a community where this person could just be the cousin of someone and that's why they're there. And like, you don't, maybe you get into what they do, but also if you do, they will ask you how much you get paid. We talk about those things. You know, the first rule of White Club is don't talk about White Club. We also talk about pay and religion and other.
Well, and that's another, you know, I just wrote this part about weaponized secrecy in Culting of America. And I'm like, this is just another, don't talk about your salary, right? That's like one of the examples that I use that, like, that benefits your corporate overlords. That is the only people that it benefits. And it was actually so weird going from the military because that's like one thing about the military is everyone knows how much money everybody makes
Yeah, but
because you're
do they
paid
talk about it?
according. Yeah,
Oh,
it is
okay,
much more discussed in that
okay.
culture. So
Because
you have much less posturing, right? Like, yeah, you have like the officer car, right? The fancy car, but like everyone knows you're making $60,000 a year, Lieutenant. And so unless you came in with significant money, like we know how much money you have left if you have a $1,500 a month car payment, right? You know, and so
yeah,
it did get talked about a lot more, which then allowed for people in typically less powerful demographics like women to get together and be like, hey, this is not correct, you know?
You have to be
And then it was just
comfortable.
so weird going out of that and into corporate America, and just like nobody knows how much anybody makes and like what
No one
qualifications work
does
for the job.
anything. It's such a, it's not real. None of it's real. And then they talk about putting out fires. I remember literally thinking there was a fire one time, the first time. And then okay, got it. Why are you talking about fire? The commercial division of some, like,
That was funny. I had this when I got out of the military, where I was an intelligence officer that deployed twice. And then I went to work for Microsoft retail loss prevention. And at one point, and my boss was a former special operations guy in the military. And so then at one point, one of the people was like, no, this is an emergency. This is life and death. Because we're talking about like what you would do if this happened or whatever. And we both were just like, oh, honey, no. Like, but this goes to a greater thing that I see in America, which I just call missionizing, right? Weaponizing the mission.
Mm-hmm.
So like you look at Walmart's mission statement, and like what it should be is providing low cost products to everyday Americans, right? But what it is providing low cost products to everyday Americans to transform their lives.
Ooh.
And I always say, like, it's in the transformation of their lives that they then exploit all your labor. And like, they teach this in entrepreneurship. Like, you sit around and you think of a mission that you can get people to buy into. And like, there's all these books about how like you too at your plant that makes sticky notes can convince your people that like their work is life or death. And that's how you're supposed to motivate them. And so here I am, like, studying organizational psychology, where we're basically being told this. And I'm like, but this is just cult tactics. Like, literally, like every 10 years, you got to have an apocalypse. So you get everyone dedicated again. And then you keep everyone running and going so hard that they don't question like what's going on or why the apocalypse never actually comes.
And you know what? And those are real jobs. The ones you're describing are the real ones. Because for some reason, and this is also why Black women are never culture fit. Because we go to these jobs and we take people at their word when they say, well, no, whatever. We think humans are humans. And these jobs say, no, you're not. And we're like, yeah, we are. And also, you promised me this much money. Why haven't I had it? And everybody else is uncomfortable because we just brought up money. But y'all get your raises? And then everyone's like, and we don't know that you're not, because the unspoken rule is don't talk about stuff. So when do we learn it? Because, but it really, that's how but you are all suffering. And so we're supposed to suffer and then feel grateful that we're able to suffer under this leadership. And then also not feel like we are entitled to this money because something, dedication and stuff. But we have community and people counting on us. And that's why we're here. So give me my paycheck. No, I'm not going to lunch with you because I could use that hour to talk to whoever my community person is that I talk to at lunch. But it's like, that's not, we don't know we're joining a cult.
And then we get told that when I got quiet fired from my retail job, and I was told that, like, if you had dedicated more time to having lunch with people, then like you would probably still have a job right now. And like, first of all, that's cray. Second of all, I would spend my lunch hour pumping because I had a new baby, like.
How dare you? When you on your off hours not come to the happy hour and show up and with a smile and without your partner that doesn't go here because that's uncomfortable for everybody to realize you're a whole human, and don't have a social media outside of here because we said so, and
I thought it was just the craziest thing when it became like, oh, don't post pictures of yourself having fun in college because jobs are going to discriminate against you. Like, what?
Yeah.
First
What?
of all, we're putting Supreme Court justices in who just boys will be boys. It was in college. I was drunk, right? But like, what? Why are we judging kids in college for having lives? And this was so true,
Right.
by the way, for as an officer, and especially like a woman officer in the US military, like you could not basically ever imply that you had a life outside of the office.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so your one job is to make them forget you're a woman, so they'll let you do your job, and then like don't have anything, right? Don't be quirky, don't like have friends, definitely don't show up to like a unit event with someone who's like not gonna fit.
Yeah.
It was just so much.
Don't like make yourself, don't draw attention to yourself, which is a crazy thing as a goal. Like the self-hurting that you have to do, like disappear, don't exist because that's burdensome. Don't, because I was talking to my friend about this and she said, you know, they say don't cause a scene. And I remember thinking, or don't make a scene. Just thinking about that as a phrase. What? Don't make it. We're already here. We're in a scene. We're seeing. Don't make it a dramatic scene. I mean, don't. What the really scene is, don't be seen, which is a different scene.
Right.
But that's really what it is. It's like they say don't be seen or heard. They also mean don't be seen. Don't be here, please.
Well, and this is also, you know, the problem with any kind of culture that encourages conformity is that the people that do stand out or can't conform when they want to are always going to be more oppressed. So like in the army, we literally have a saying, right? All you have to do to be successful in the army is be in the right place, in the right time, in the right uniform, and never volunteer for anything. Right? Like literally do not stand out. Like that is what we are saying. But so then because that's the culture, then as women, we're wrong from day one because we stand out.
Right.
You know? And so it's like just this constant like cycle.
It's like you're apologizing for existing.
And let me tell you, in studying organizational psychology, at least 3 times that I can think of, we had a debate, whether or not it is appropriate to bring emotions to the workplace. And it would get polarized, right? And like, first of all, it's not a choice to get to bring emotions to work, right? Like, we don't just have an off button for emotions. But like the way in 2023, people were still like
emotional in that conversation. I bet got real emotional in that conversation about whether or not they should be able to bring emotions in, especially the ones who are saying no, you're not supposed to bring emotions in. They got
it was literally, and the ones who were saying no, like you could always just, they don't mean emotions, they mean drama. Right? They mean just like don't exist or have any needs like outside of the context of your job.
Drama. Don't cause a scene. The drama. Don't exist here in a way I can't predict and control and makes me feel comfortable and like and comfortable means in control and certain of what's going to happen. Versus a world of safety would have none of those things. If you really wanted to be safe and secure, you would practice what were my other say conflict acceptance, not because we resolution like they're not even close. Have we resolved? We can't. So anyway, conflict acceptance, critical thinking, and compassion are the C's of actual safety. Having compassion for other people, seeing other people as humans first, and not having to give all these justifications of why it's okay to torture people and harm them and punish them for existing in a way you aren't familiar with, because we're not even getting into whether things are like right or wrong. They're like, well, the rules aren't necessary in a community. Rules aren't really like required with adults. But if you assume everyone's gonna like, I think narcissists tend to think, everyone thinks like them, or the best way to think is that everyone thinks like them and they're all out to get you, but like most of us aren't. But I think there's a lot that we could learn, but I do think that white women have to realize that the harm that is coming to them as a result of the inaction, not just like, oh, you have it easier, or men like you more. It's like, oh, no. There's so much else out here where in a community, so it makes me think of girl groups, right? Groups of girlfriends, right? There's a difference when you have community and when you don't, and when you go out. And I listen to these girl trip stories, and there's a lot of unspoken rules within the Black community, Black women especially. Well, we go out together, we leave together. No one goes off. No one gets lost. No one just winds up with a dude and then we go out together, we leave together. I don't care if we're fighting and you're rude to me. And it's not just because that's the rules. It's because we have a community to answer to. If I leave with you and I come back without you, I have my community to answer to and my other friends. Because I go, wait, you're going to leave me too? There's consequences, there's context, and also community policing.
Yeah.
That could do a lot more than relying on the rules and calling some outside group of people to come in and, I don't know, fix, protect, and serve.
Yeah.
I don't know what all that's.
And also, like, this thwarts cults and manipulation, right? So there was once a high-level former Scientology recruiter who was asked, like, oh, what's the number one thing that doesn't work when you try to recruit people? Or, like, what stops people from joining? And he was like, oh, 100%. It's right in the beginning when a friend is like, no, we're not doing this. Let's go.
Mhm.
Right? Versus this, like,
too, right?
leaving your friend behind, being able to go off and just do your own thing.
And that takes conflict acceptance, right? You have to be like girlfriends, you can say, girl, what are you, stupid? And they don't really mean that. You don't take that personally. And there's the underflow of belief in that relationship where I know I can say to you something that's not going to make you feel so great or something. I know you really love this. I know, it's not like, well, she really liked it. And I feel kind of hands off. And if it gets really bad, or, well, we'll see. No, you have to care enough and have enough compassion and like critical thinking to be able to trust also your friend who pulls you out. But I do see a lot of that in whiteness, where it's kind of like, well, she really liked that.
I think it also just comes from like even when I hear you talking about that, it also seems like it comes from growing up with these women and girls like policing each other from the time you're young. And I don't like not policing each other, but like protecting each other, right? Like having each other's backs from the time when you're young. And I don't feel like white women like have that,
Right.
I mean, one of the things is we're so effectively isolated as women, like in our little castles and away from community.
And you're compared to each other a lot. It's how you guys all, all wearing the same thing, Alabama Rush type of thing. Whereas I think in like a Black girl group, you can have different styles and we can be different people. We may wear similar things. I do have a picture of me and quite a few of my girlfriends all in Black crop tops and the high-waisted jeans, but like it was easy to go out with. But there's like, it's intuitive because there's a family as the community, not as the like group you belong to.
It just makes me think of this. I don't know if this is a white woman only question, but it's definitely a white woman thing to do, to like text a group ahead of time and be like, what are we wearing? And it comes from this fear of standing out, right? Like, heaven forbid I show up overdressed or underdressed. And so this is such a thing with me. And I actually told my women friends at some point, I was like, nope, don't ask me. Like, I'm always going to show up wearing whatever I want to. And I'm usually overdressed and I'm fine with that, right? And it's like, but it's this fear of standing out.
Yeah, I had that face, and I think with my friends, sometimes we would go like, "Okay, what are you wearing?" Right? There's a little bit different. It was just like just to maybe think about what a vibe I could go with, and I see it so different. It's like opportunity, right? It's I would never wear whatever my friend is wearing. She's gonna send me something. It's not what I'm gonna wear, but I don't know. It helps me feel like where we're gonna be out or something. But I remember going out so from North Jersey when I eventually went out in Hoboken. Me and my friends know, we was like, oh my gosh, Hoboken was where there's a lot of white people there. And the way we would see these girls so drunk, all of them, none of them was in charge. There were some, who was letting you guys go? And now we're taking care of these girls. And the girls in the bathroom type thing, or it's like, well, this is where your best friends are. We always are fine, but it's like I remember having that. Me and my girlfriend at the time, we talk about it still. Hoboken, we go, and the guys were sloppy drunk. All of that. But the comfort level, I couldn't believe it that all of them were just out of control and felt okay leaving. I don't. So survival instincts on zero, right? But we were looking out for them, because I see them as human, not just like, oh, weird. And we're watching, we're looking. I mean, I'm not going to take them home.
Yeah.
I'm cold or something. I don't know. But you do what you can when you're around, because you feel responsibility is okay. Like, but you have responsibility for what you do, responsibility over the rules. I think that's really where things get, and where America focuses is on rights and not responsibilities of people with power. They're like, well, the parental rights to do this, your right to have this firearm, your right to this, your right to that, as opposed to what? What do you mean?
Yeah.
And then once you even start talking about that, you're already in a failed position to be like, my rights, your rights. I exist. That's enough. I have to earn my rights. From who? That guy with the bib? They haven't ever worked a real job. Ever. They do papers and they're like, papers. Here's papers.
And like, even, this even goes down to like what's considered rights. I mean, technically in the US, we don't have the right to live. We're supposed to have the right to life, but we don't have a healthcare system.
Right.
So like, we don't, right?
I know. That's what I'm saying, to even be having that conversation. So I remember once listening to, it's some audio of a guy who said he was talking to this black guy, and he said, well, we gave you your rights, and I can't be mad. The guy said, honey, you think you can give me my freedom and my right to exist? You think it is my life is yours to give to me, random man? That's the problem. So when we're talking about rights, it's like I wrote up here, it's like, yeah, rights as opposed to what's like, and that's such a weird word to use. And not to disparage, the civil rights movements and things like that, but it's like, why are we asking them for permission? I think that's my problem. Like, we spent this whole time with people going, no, you're not human, you're not human, you're not human. Why are we asking those people to not only change how they feel about every other type of human, but also be in charge of all of those other humans and still be responsible? They're responsible? They're never talking about responsibilities. An actual leader leads. They do the thing at first. They walk into that dangerous building first. The leader doesn't tell you how to walk in and go run in that building right now. I want to see if we have enemies, I want to see. Sorry, I want to see Donald Trump fight whoever he got problems with. I don't want to be involved. We could put it on the news. I'm sure the ratings would be high. Mike Tyson just fought some guy, some young white guy, and it had a lot to do with racism. I'm not sure. I wasn't watching, but like, if he got problems with someone, he should handle it like we handle it. Fisticuffs.
Right.
I'm just seeing it, and I just like, I think that would be better entertainment than the news we got.
Oh my God. You can't, it's just, you can't believe anything anymore. It's just, I don't know. I'm just gonna end this where I started, which is like, I've had a literal 1 million questions today asking me what I think about Elon Musk's Nazi salute. And I'm like, what? Like,
that's how we started.
Why? But like, why do you need me to tell you what I think about this
That's a good point.
salute, right? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just
that. Like, that should be one obvious, but like, that's something happens and you go to your nearest, like, I don't know.
And it's like he felt safe enough. He felt safe enough in that crowd to do this. And what I think is like, this is America.
Where was that? Was that like?
It was at the inauguration.
Oh, this. Yeah. You know what? You know what?
You know, it's just like
I just.
All of the stuff is being said out loud now, and it is, you know, I think we're on the beginning of looking like dictatorship era Brazil. You know, this increasing stratification between the haves and the have-nots. I remember when I moved to the US when I was 14 from Brazil, like the most shocking thing was that there were just large 4 or 5 bedroom houses on the streets. Because like, you didn't have that there. You had walls around anything nice. You know, like we're already starting to see slum villages in places like Oregon and Seattle. And like,
I have some hope for the information of it all, for like the kids, because there are so many people, not just kids, the non-voters. I think we do a lot of focusing on voters, which are a large group of people. But the amount of people that did not vote, it's not that they did not vote because they, you know, for many reasons, felons, right? These aren't people who don't have resources or aren't resourceful, aren't powerful, impactful people. And in fact, I think it's people who have divested their sense of self and hope in the future from the government because they've seen what they've done. You know, this is so honest right now where we are, I think. I don't think it's our government being something it's never been. I think we're seeing it now and we can accept it, believe it, consider it, and do something different. We don't have to. Like, you know, we have all this information age, and we know so much about narcissism now. At least as far as I feel like we know so much more. And the way to prevent being enticed and brought into a narcissistic dynamic is to know about it first, to just know about them, to have awareness of the tactics and the patterns. It does most of the job of preventing your induction into it. So we do that with cults. We can do that with cultic systems. I'm trying to do it, you know, with racism, and that's kind of a avalanche of things that we can maybe just start believing in people again and not in the rules, because the rules aren't the things, aren't the resources, aren't the people. The rules have never cared about Black women. Black women have never really cared about the rules. And those guys who we're all like, what they want us to pay attention to and where they want your attention, we have to also be aware of. why do they want you looking over there and focused on that and these white guys with terrible goals when there are so many other people? And if you spend your attention, you'll be less miserable if you focus kind of where those in community are. That's how I get out of those pits. And I had sent you something, and just also thinking about suicide rates, and really looking at what that fact is. Black women are the least respected, least protected, most educated, least likely to commit suicide demographic in this country. That is information worth really, really thinking about.
Yeah, I love that video. I'm so glad you brought it up. And it was especially interesting amongst veterans, which is a high population of suicidal ideology, and still you have incredibly low rates amongst Black women.
And it's like, that's not coincidence, that's community, and that's purpose beyond your position. It's not like what you do and purpose beyond your performance of this thing. And that's why we're not great to work with. Yeah, because what do you mean? Like, that's all that should matter. How am I perceived is not everything, because there is community within us, in our existence, in our ability to be there and perceive. But that's also what drives you, and you just don't, it's not as harmful to the soul as something like whiteness and privilege and pickability is. And I just sit with that. And it's like, especially in the military or in like cults in general, there's like high suicide ideation and attempts. But Black women aren't necessarily the cult people, right? So,
well, and I think it ties to the masking, right? Like, I think that's where the suicidal ideology comes from. It ties to this constant requirement to tamp down who you are. But kind of, I think that, one of the benefits, as it were, for Black women is like, you knew you weren't going to fit already, so you're not trying, right? Whereas white women, like, because that's one of the things I keep hearing and keep saying is that, like, I hope that white women are going to wake up now and realize that, like, they hate us too, right? Like, we are not, like, they hate us too. We are not gonna fit. And so just like giving up on that. I mean, I have not had 1 second of suicidal ideation once I started being myself and figuring out like who I was and what I wanted, and not trying to like fit myself into another system.
You don't need to be improving yourself, because you're fine as it is. You belong because you are, not because you provide, not because you produce or you perform. You just are. You're here under all the odds and circumstances, but this system will tell you, so what are you here for? What do you want to be? What do you want to do? What are you doing next? How are you showing up? But if you feel like, oh, I don't need to explain myself to you guys, just like we talk about with the guys, and what school did you go? What is your white woman whisper? How do you do? Cause I've been here and I'm doing it. I'm here. Is that not enough? Like, and if you don't like it, okay, pretend you never saw it. That's just another person. Pretend you never experienced this, and you'll be just fine.
I say this, some guy, I forget what the exact question was, but it was like, where's the, let's see your whatever. And I was like, what makes you think you can do this? Like, well, it goes to your credibility. And I was like, sir, the 200,000 people here watching me, like, goes to my credibility. This stack of actual books that you see me sending out to people, like, goes to my credibility. Like, and that was, I think, a moment for me. And I definitely, like, thank you for this, where it was like, because I have the credentials, I have the things. And in the past, I would have been like, oh, here's my, and now I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care that they think that I'm just making up whatever. Like, I'm here. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm worth. I know how much money I'm making. So, like,
and
bye.
They're just going to take it and move the goalpost, right? So, like,
right.
I can straighten my hair, and that brings me a little bit closer. But so what? Or, people would say like, oh, we wrote this out so nicely. Da, 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 da. Well, it doesn't matter. The narcissist is going to be mad that you even had the nerve to do it. So it doesn't matter how nice or what you could have said or you didn't. You can't expect normalcy from this system that only wants you to be kind of begging for something all the time. And when you're not begging, it's like, well, they don't know what to do. It makes them very uncomfortable. And that's okay too. You could say, I know. This is different for you. You're used to the thing. And that took time for me. I wanted to write something for to publish for something special because for different reasons. I wanted it so that I could tell someone, in my life, I did this. So look, now I'm valid. This is my credential because I was anointed by this organization that isn't a person because they've other people. And once I realized that that's why I was doing it, I decided not to do it. I just did other stuff because it's like, I realized once I told that person, oh, I was posted by this, they would go, oh, okay. It's never gonna do the thing I want it to do if it's get validation and the official stamp of goodness from whoever. Your job isn't going to become a real job to anybody who wants it to be suffering and sacrifice. It's never going to be. I don't think I'm ever going to have a real job. But for a long time, I really thought, well, it's this, or, if I can't make this work, whatever that means, I'll have to go get a real, and that sounded like death to me. Literally sounds like harm. And what is any of that? And it would mean working at doing nothing impactful. I don't think my audience wants that. I remember I used to, if you guys don't support me, I'm going to have to go get a job. And then I won't be here because I'll be suffering under some man.
Exhausted.
You don't have the energy in you. And that's on purpose.
Yeah.
And you can't have a social media account.
Exploitation of labor. And cults want you tired and busy, because then that's the whole point. Then you're not thinking of ways to crash the system. So
yeah. And so I want to encourage you though also to, remember that they're going to keep coming to you for doomsday-ish, because this is prime, And I think that's interesting. I want to keep note on it. What do white people do? Because they don't come to me necessarily with okay, what about good groups? Because I've been so fascinated by you, having that be the answer to you. It's I can't believe that. Because when I think about, what your work is, I'm just opportunity to learn more and connect more. It's not okay, so what's
the answer? What's the answer?
Thing is very white. So what you're saying is, or so,
and it's even the apocalypse right now. So people really, they want me to confirm that oh my gosh, the sky is falling, and I find it very calming to hear you just be no, this is what it is. This is what we have been. They're just saying it out loud right now.
And it's very commodifiable to, it makes a lot of money to have you fearful and watching the news and watching for the latest thing. And then you're tired and focused and you're not looking at the Black women who this whole time have said, yeah, this may happen, but at least we, have the honest truth and we know what we're dealing with. And we're calling the bluff of these adultier people up at the top. They're just moving at a whim. You say you like them, they'll be like, okay, I'll do whatever you want. We need to know that. We need to know that this was all the elders of the cult were not some special anointed beings. They're just dudes who have been around and know how to work the system. Politic, as you will. What is that? It's just, people peopling. And, a couple Black women in charge could really change so much. But you're not going to get that if you're so focused and so tired, exhausted, depleted, defeated. Those things haven't happened. A couple Black women, have done a lot with a little, and we have so much information and power as people. I could never have this platform back in the day. The ancestors would dream of this. So for me, I can't, really give into some of the stuff sometimes because I'm like.
And that's even been a thing here in my little corner. It's like, yeah, Donald Trump's the president, but also Maryland just elected our first Black woman senator. And I'm so excited about that and like what she brings to our community. Right. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and this is another thing I've been telling people with all the apocalyptia and stuff, right? That I'm like, the people that have always been fighting this power are still fighting, right? Like AOC is not just going to sit
Yeah.
down and let the Republicans win.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole group of, women of color in the Senate, House, that are just like always questioning, right? And always asking. I keep using this example because people are like, oh, the military is going to turn their guns on America. And I'm like, do you really think the Black woman sergeant who's in charge of the weapons room is going to open that for you to go turn? Like, no.
You know what I'm saying? And be prepared to have her back. Be like, look for those opportunities instead of looking for all the problems, because that is literally like what our new system wants, is for you to be and to come with the cognitive ease with which a scary thought can come forward is kind of part of their thing. Versus for me, I can think of so many just nice moments of Black women just being women, and that is like self-energizing. And I've been working on this term, what I've been calling, so I'm sharing it here for person, like the solar system, but with like a soul, right? Like my solar system, and giving different aspects of my being they're just due. And everyone's got their own solar system, and the universe is big, and the stars are dead, but I can still see them. And those are like the ancestors type of thing. And like they impact my life now, and I can learn from it, even though it's not necessarily happening. But and also, I don't know, expanding universe, that's a lot, but I'm still here. And you have so much that you can just like do within your own experiences, but know that that's also including all those humans around you that are mad and stuff. So like the loudest people might be people that scare you, but that's on purpose. So as mad as you are, as angry as you are, think about me. I'm just a random person out here. Like remembering that there's millions of us and Gen Z and people who were in prison and don't want to talk about stuff with white people. Like there's a lot more of us than there are of them. But they obviously would not want you to know that.
Yeah. They don't want us to be talking. I think, really, I'm so excited for your chapter for the book, because I think that part of what we're going through right now is this problem. It's like all of our groups, which mostly were built by white people in this country, are breaking, right? Our groups and our systems, and they are breaking, right? Like the oligarchy is here, but that's like gonna force us to actually learn more about community, right? Like one of the things I've been saying is like, oh, if a revolution actually comes, or like for any reason you're fighting the American government, we have the most high-tech spy network in the world. So what does that mean? Like the way to beat that, and I said that on my live this morning, I'm like, go find Black women who have been doing this work in community, community organizing, in person, offline, right?
Yep.
Because that's going to be the way that we're going to have to like learn and survive. And as you said, always has been.
Yeah, I use the acronym once, TAPPED. There are people doing that. Because I heard a lot of like, well, what do we, and we just gotta, there are people doing that. They're probably Black women. But you have to know that, go find that, because that's not what's going to be put on the news. That's not what's going to be put in your face. I try to kind of sneak in there that we try to put Black women in your face, and it's like I use the crochet and the dog and the stuff just to try to make it okay, get white women to see me. But it's because it's not like it's not there, but you're kind of trained to not believe Black women, or to assume when they're talking about something, it doesn't have to do with you. You can't really learn from it. That's and she's talking to it's gold in there. You just have to know that, look, like, slow down enough to say, okay, why do they want my attention right now focused on this with the, how can I do something different? And it's really just find some Black women. And that's what I only say that because that's what I've done almost every time. I've been wanting to lose it. And then I read something by Stacey Abrams. Lead from the Outside was one of my first ones that was just like, oh, I can't complain. Stacey Abrams is doing this there with those people. All right, I can do it on the internet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do encourage not to lose hope. Yeah, see it as something we're a part of, not something.
Well, and also the thing about the apocalypse is it makes you not do anything, right? Like if we all knew the world was ending in 20 minutes, we would just sit down and hug each other, right? We wouldn't do anything. So the people that want the chaos, because chaos always benefits coercive control, like they want you freaking out. Whether that's about the robots are coming, right? AI, or whether that's like the left right now freaking out like it's the end of the world. It's like, because then you're not going and finding the Black women who are leading this, who are already doing this. You're just going, what can I do?
I gotta start something. I gotta, because it just started now. The panic is just starting now that I found out about it. It's like, remember when I said 400 years of enslavement, right? You gotta chill. Like, who should be most afraid? Who is most afraid? Who's actually protected right now? Who's not protected right now? Like, people are poor and homeless right now, dying in the street right now. And this, like, it's almost kind of selfish to be like, what's coming, like, it's not like, have we seen outside? We needed to do something a long time ago. It's like, it got this far for us to for white women or white people, hopefully white women. It took 2 Trump presidencies. It took 2.
Yeah. Good. I mean, I hope along with you that this is what it takes for us to really wake up and, wake up to the point, even like what I keep thinking as you're saying this stuff, that like we are not in charge of the solution. We are almost certainly not going to Katniss Everdeen America, right? Like,
you gotta give up the Katniss condition for sure. Nah. It's okay to be an extra, but I don't think that's a whole other thing. It's like the specialness that you want. It's if you felt good enough in your sense of self and your solar system, you wouldn't need to feel like everyone's sun. You'd be your own sun. The soul is the sun, and the earth is my brain. That's what I got so far, as I'm working on it.
Well, soul is sun in Spanish or Portuguese.
Oh my
SOL.
goodness. You're right.
Yeah. So Latin. So yeah.
And
you can
it's perfect.
You can
really
tie that in very easily. Yeah.
I love it so much. It's like, it's solar and the soul, and I'm just saying it, and and
I love that. So I say this to people, like, when we go cult hopping until we realize that we don't need to be the center of the solar system. We don't always need to be the most important, doing the most important thing. Oh my gosh, someone on one of my homeschooling posts left a comment that just said, one of the benefits of going to public school is you learn that you don't have to be the center of every conversation.
Yeah.
It was golden, right? And I with cults, I describe it as like the process of deconstructing from cults is we have to become like less narcissistic and more selfish. Right? So like less narcissistic because we are like in this system suffering, right? Sacrificing ourselves, but all because it makes us look good and feel good, right? Inside this system. But then we don't know a goddamn thing about self-care or, like actually taking care of ourselves. And when I hear you just being like, calm down, sit down, like there's time.
Because you have to heal yourself first. And that's what Black women in the books will tell you. And that's what I told me. And that's why I tell white women is you literally need to heal yourself first. All about love. And Bell Hooks talks about, it's like, you can't love someone before you. But I realize white women are taught, you know, the opposite. And like, if you love, you're loving other people. It doesn't, someone had said the acronym JOY, they said, Jesus others than yourself. And that's, oh, I couldn't.
It's a song. It's a song.
almost
Jesus and others and you. What a wonderful way to spell joy.
like, wonderful way to spell it. You are last if you are a good person. That is not, ew, that's so
and I mean, I described this in Children of God. Like in the cult, literally, like you had no self, right? So if you ever got a compliment, there was only one accepted response, which was, it's only Jesus, right? It's only Jesus. So then I
also,
described my own like decade and a half after the cult. It was like, well, because I had internalized that growing up, right? That I'm worthless without Jesus. Then when I rejected Jesus, then I had to spend 15 years like trying to prove that I was something. Right. And actually, one of the reasons that people always found me like so annoying is because I'd always present all my credentials, like in order to be accepted.
yeah.
And once I realized, like, oh no, like I don't need to like prove that I belong here.
Attention of someone who feels I have to prove my
That I
worthiness
belong.
of their attention. Yeah. If I have to prove my deservedness, then I don't want to be here. And that's another reason you don't give credentials, because it's like, ew, like the fact that you would even ask means I don't want this. But what you were saying about like being more selfish and less narcissistic is so, like, I've been saying you need to center yourself so you don't center yourself. And to me, it makes sense, but I know that's the same words over and over again. But it's
perfect.
Like, but to me, that's what you have to do. You need to like center yourself. Like, where are you? Who are you? What's going on? So you don't
feel like
up in
I feel like
business.
that line needs to be in the musical in the last song. Like you need to
I like
center yourself so you don't center
yourself. Because there's such a difference, like I said, and you know what? That's so good, because I was saying last time, it's like very gestury for me, because like otherwise you end up centering yourself like this, and you like put yourself in the center and start pointing outwards and creating a center of other people, versus just like being in the center and kind of just speaking from a centered place. In your own conversation, you don't have to jump into other people's lives and start being like, well, I think, and if it were me, if it were me's, get out of here. If it were, I'm just saying, all you had to do, all that stuff is narcissism, versus, well, you know, I do it too. We're all here together. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That was my first center yourself so you don't center yourself. I was like,
amazing.
As I broke it down, I thought, I get it. And
no, the repetition is good. I have this one that I did in my TED Talk where I say the process of finding your process is a process.
Yeah,
I think the repetition like makes your point. Yeah,
I like that. And I am a very like a verbal processor too. So sometimes you have to hear it. Like reading it is one thing, and then like saying it, sometimes it just feels good to say certain things.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if that's hyperlexia or not, but like I'm just like, certain words just feel so good. Like I can't get over love overwhelm, because it kind of feels like a song, but like versus the love bombing, just I like what it does, who it centers. So you center yourself, so you don't center yourself and be like,
you are being overwhelmed, and that's what matters, not the action of the person that's like love bombing you.
Yeah, categorizing them. Are they abusive? Are they not abusive? How do you feel? Like, do you feel abused?
Doesn't work for you.
Get out.
I always say, like, I've never been asked the question in good faith, is this a cult? And then found like nothing there concerning, right? Because like if you're asking that question, like you know you've been experiencing something that doesn't feel good to you. And so like, and I think that's what matters.
Yeah, I think that I wrote today, community reduces cultability. And I think I like cultability because it kind of sounds like culpability, but it's not. But also like it reduces your cultability, and that I care more about that than labeling a group of cult, or is it, or what's technically the difference. But like I want to make you less able to be culted by saying, hey, okay, all right, I know. But see how we've done this hundreds of years? Let's do something different. And the community can come in and go, I'm going to hold your hand while I say this. You got a booger? We need a tissue? Okay, we're gonna just redecorate this room a little bit. Dust a little, so.
Absolutely. Well, this is a good time for us to wrap up. I think community reduces your cultability definitely needs to be in the chapter at the end of the book.
I like Saturday
and
and everything going.
Please, everyone, go follow Rebecca. All of the links will be below. Check out her Patreon, where you can join her Whisper Wednesdays and all of her other lovely things. If you are listening to us, please like and subscribe. If you are watching us on video, you're right, because if you're not watching us, it's way less fun. So anyways, come and check us out as well. Thank you so much. We will be back next week to continue deconstructing white supremacy like the cult that it is.
Party.